I don't have a guest with me today. I'm taking over the broadcast because I kind of was doing some reflecting on what we've been talking about. But I thought, I wonder if I skipped kind of explaining the body-brain connection as fully as I should have. My philosophy as a movement pattern analyst is to understand what you need in order to be at your best in your business. What does your brain need your body to be doing, and vice versa? And what movement pattern analysis is, it is this connection, this body-brain connection. I know I explain that a lot of times because it's really important for people to try to understand this. Movement pattern analysts are trained to observe nonverbal behavior. So what is going on in your body that tells us what kind of brain processes are happening in your mind. And everybody has a movement pattern. That's why it's called movement pattern analysis. Everybody has a preferred way of thinking and moving. And when you understand what your own preferred way of moving and thinking is, you can use this to better communicate, because you understand what you don't intend to say to people and how your body doesn't move. And you also then understand how you are perceived by others, like what the movements that you do give off, what do they say to other people? Because as always, there's two sides to that body language piece, right? What you say to others and what they're saying to you. And it's this dance. Body language is another language. And the frustrating thing for most of my clients to get over, the biggest thing for them to get over, is it's not necessarily an overnight quick fix. It's not, sorry, Charlie. I mean, if you're thinking of calling me, I do your assessment, right? I can tell you what it is that your body does. But it takes a little bit of time to change habits, or it takes time to figure out how to change that communication in order for it to really live in you and be super, super useful. But once that happens, and we're not talking forever, we're talking, 3 to 6 months. But when that happens, everything skyrockets. You become so much more productive, and productivity usually equals saving time, right? Or using your time better and more efficiently. Once you figure all of those things out, how you move, why you're moving, because of that body-brain connection, then you use that to your advantage, because you can make changes. So let me give you a really good example. I am working with a CEO client right now who came to me with the complaint of, people think I'm too critical. They, in her kind of reviews and things with the other partners in the firm and stuff, she's being told that she's argumentative, or that she doesn't, give up her points or see other points of view, that sort of thing. And I was like, okay, we can work with that. Let's take a look. Let's see what's going on. So in our conversation, I noticed that in general, most of the time, she's sitting back in her chair, very relaxed. There isn't a stiff, or it doesn't come across critical because she's rigid. It's coming across to others that she's criticizing because she's leaning back, and in her mind, she's taking it all in. She's gathering the information and she's listening. So there is nodding and things like that going on, but the nodding tends to happen with a tilted head just a little bit. The sitting back and then sometimes there's like this lengthening, like this kind of thing. Well, that movement can be seen as critical. Why? Because getting a lot of neck and kind of the lifting up of the nose, right, has her sort of looking down on the other people around the table. So they think that she's criticizing and looking down on their ideas. Plus, leaning back can be perceived as a prove it to me. sort of posture. Like, okay, I've got it now you have to convince me. And that isn't what's going through her mind necessarily. She's not looking for that, but that's how other people around the table are perceiving it. So, what are we working on? Very simple. Number one thing is just sitting up during the meeting. Resting her elbows on the table, even. But shifting that posture in order to change the way that she's being perceived. Because that way she's going to look more active in the conversation, like she is generally interested. But her interest from here to here is perceived much differently by the rest of the team. You see how that works? And so now you're probably thinking, well, great. So how do I do this for myself? And this is what I'm telling people all the time. I do so many talks. If you want me to come in and talk to your group, give me a call. Ping me somewhere on LinkedIn or someplace, and Clubhouse even. Okay. So how do you do this for yourself? It takes self-observation. I spend all of my training saying, listen with your eyes, take off the blinders and start observing people. Okay. Well, if you want to figure out, your own how to be more productive for yourself, you need to turn those eyes on yourself. So in your next meeting, particularly if you're not leading it, if you get to be an observer in the meeting, I would take a piece of paper and just start writing down everything that you're doing. Okay? How you're sitting. Is your back against the chair? Do you sit basically straight up? Are you leaning forward? Do you gesture a lot or a little? How big are your gestures? Do you take up a lot of space or do you keep things pretty narrow? Is there a tempo or a speed to which you move? Are you a fast mover or a slow mover? Granted, these are all going to be underneath your own bias, okay? So remember that every time you record something, it's kind of through your own bias. And we all think that the way we move is the best. So you're going to have to get over that. You're going to have to get over the fact that you move in a superior way to everybody else. And why should you have to change? They should be the one changing, okay? If you truly, truly, truly want to be more productive, want to raise your sales and want to communicate better with your team, or want to present better when you are talking to other people, you do need to take that self look and see what it is that you do. But just start to pay attention to how it is that you move. So you write all those things down. Maybe you do it over several meetings so that you get kind of a baseline. Do I act the same way most of the time with most of the people? And then here's the trick. Just as I was doing with my CEO client, she tended to sit all the way back, so I'm telling her to sit forward. We're going to try that first. So do the opposite. Choose one thing that you do and try doing the opposite thing and see how the reaction of other people changes. If you tend to be a real in their face kind of, particularly if it's a Zoom call or something and you're in the camera all the time and you're really up close because you're super excited, try inching back just a little bit and showing up with more body language in view next time and see how that changes things. If you tend to be a very wide gesturer and you gesture really big and everything's talking with your hands a ton and things like that, see what happens if you just bring it in a little bit. I'm not saying to change the amount of gestures. I'm just asking you to change the size of the gesture. Because if you make too many changes, then you're not like you anymore. Hey, Christine. Somebody has been watching. Christine's loving this. So thank you, Christine. Appreciate that. You just want to pick one thing to start with and just do that opposite and see how things change. If it doesn't change for the better, if you're not communicating better or people aren't reacting better to you, then you go on to something else. But That's the way to start. And obviously, for most people, this is, it's going to take a little bit of time to generate that change. But once people see it and it like sparks it in them, oftentimes then they get hooked because they're like, oh my gosh, wow, suddenly people are reacting really differently to me. People are sharing more with me than they have been in the past, perhaps. Or, that one shift that I did, all of a sudden now I'm getting things done a lot faster. We're not saying things 3 times. For some reason, I'm only having to say it once, and my team is actually doing it. I've heard that many, many times. And it's because you're changing the way you're communicating with them. Oftentimes, we want other people to change how they communicate with us. But as the leaders, as the C-suite, we need to be changing how we're speaking to others. It really does kind of come down to us. And the more you understand how it is that you communicate, you know what you do and how it's going to be perceived and how to change it for others. And that's going to raise that productivity piece. All right, everybody. I think I have blabbed on probably enough. If this is something that interests you and you want this idea to come to your team, there are ways to do short programs where your team does most of the work, but I'm just kind of that guide through it rather than doing the work for them and necessarily assessing each of them. There are ways for me to facilitate self-assessment and then how to use it and move it forward. So don't let any kind of preconceived notion of like fees or how much this kind of thing costs to prohibit you from having a conversation with me, because I'm so passionate about this work. There's always a program that can fit it, whether it's an online something that already exists or whether it's, creating something customized exactly for what you need. So if you happen to be in sales and you don't teach body language to your clients, you call me, right? If you happen to be in career transition and you're doing a lot of mock interviews with your clients and things, but you don't really know how to tell them about the body language piece besides, don't cross your arms and, the normal stuff, eye contact, right? If you want to go deeper with your clients or offer them a deeper experience, then you call me and we partner together. That's, how I work. So those are kind of the areas that I'm working in right now, working with a couple of videographers, right? Videographers, they want their clients to be giving off the best body language signals that they can on screen, but they don't know how to tell them to do that because body language is something that you have to learn, right? Body language is a foreign language.